Hi, my name is Francois Odia, and this is Super Teachers Unite, the show dedicated to finding out what it takes to teach like a superhero. Now, all of us had that favorite teacher when we were at school, and they were very influential early in our lives, and we remember them fondly. Now, in every episode, I'll interview business leaders and other super teachers so that they can share the stories about the super teachers in their lives that were so influential on the successes that they made of their lives. Now, they'll share stories from the classroom, but as well as the boardroom. In every episode, our guest stories will assist us in finding out, especially if you're a super teacher, what it is going to take to improve your practice. And if you're a business leader, how will you improve your people, your processes, and your profits? Now, if you need me to assist you in finding out how you can teach like a superhero, check out our website at staysuper.co.za. What does professional big wave surfing and teaching have in common? Well, a lot more than you would think. In today's episode, I interview Matt Bromley, who is a professional big wave surfer. And in the episode, we chat about this aspect of chasing storms. When a lot of people, when they see a storm coming, they run away. But not Matt and his friends, they rather run towards these storms. Now, all of us are facing storms in our lives. The kids in our classrooms, they are facing storms. But how do we deal with the uncertainty? How do we deal with the stress and anxiety that comes with that? Matt shares with us some of the tips and tricks that he uses when he prepares to go out and chase a storm. I'm sure this is going to be a great episode with a lot of value for teachers. Tell us on social media what you think about it, and then subscribe on all of the different platforms and tell your friends about what we're doing over on Super Teachers Unite. All right, Matt, everybody knows a little bit more about you from our introduction, but I'm sure that our teachers are going to want to stalk you and find out more about you. Where can the teachers go to find out more about Matt Bromley?
So the best place is probably just through my Instagram, which is Matt Bromley Surf. And that's kind of recording all my journeys, traveling, my thoughts, my feelings, surfing the big waves and everything. So Instagram's probably the best, yeah.
I've been following you since we've started having our interactions, and it is on fire. I absolutely love your Instagram page, and we'll delve into it a bit later. But I mean, the waves you guys ride is absolutely insane. But we'll jump into that a bit later. But Matt, as we ask all of our guests on the show, we ask them to explain or elaborate a bit on a teacher that made a massive impact on their lives. So Matt, over to you.
Sure. I was thinking about that, and it was a long time ago now. But I think my accounting teacher back at school, he was in the beginning. I probably was like putting up my defenses. I thought he was a bit hectic, but after a while, he became my best teacher. And I think that is because he was so professional. He had been an accountant before, which I think helped, but every lesson I felt like he knew exactly what he was teaching, everything. He just knew it so well. And I felt inspired by that level of professionalism. And that's something that I really try to hold to. Even being a professional surfer, you might think, well, what I do all day when I'm not surfing big waves, but that helped to instill discipline and working really hard. So to find my passion and to work really hard. So I still try to put in 8-hour days no matter what and work hard at it.
Yeah, that totally threw me off guard, because when you think of big wave surfing, immediately I would have assumed that like maybe one of your favorite teachers or would be like one of the sporting coaches, or but then you hit me with the accounting teacher of all people. Which I think like breaks down all of the stereotypes. And I love how you go about this, because there is the stereotype around surfing, skateboarders, those type of lifestyle sports, and it's like slacking. It's like, you just like, it's hippie. You just rock up and you go on. But putting the word professional in front of big wave surfer, you've just explained that, the professionalism from your teacher made that impact on you, that it doesn't matter what kind of career you move into, professionalism as a skill and as a value remains highly wanted.
100%, yeah. And that professionalism, and maybe behind that, the preparation that I've now installed in that helps me to ride big waves. Preparation is one of the biggest things that helps me to remain calm and to make good decisions when the waves get really big and scary. And just a side note, Joe, when you're out there and the waves are so wild and you're in the storm, you're so far beyond your control. And I don't know if you can maybe relate that to a school, a room where the kids are going mad or something. But when you're so far beyond your control, if you've done the preparation to be ready for it, that's gonna make all the difference to help you to thrive in amongst the chaos.
Absolutely. I mean, if nobody thought that there's a way that we can link big wave surfing to teaching, but I think you're 100% spot on. Oh, well done. I love the fact that your cat just crept in there. It's like, it's no testament of the times that we live in.
Exactly.
But anyway, the fact that preparation is a key link or a key skill between the different careers is so important, in that anything can go wrong at any time. Maybe like on the ocean, it's a bit more devastating, could be fatal than what it necessarily is in a classroom. But the fact is, you'd much rather want to be a prepared surfer, a prepared teacher in times of chaos, than being an unprepared teacher or unprepared surfer in times of chaos.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, obviously in big wave surfing, the consequences can be life and death. If you get held down by a huge wave and you're trapped underwater and you can't get up, the very worst, obviously, that can happen is drowning. But I think also teachers have a huge impact on kids' lives, and I've kind of gone back now into do surf coaching, and I do a bit of big wave training with kids to kind of help them with mindset and stuff, and you see how influenced they are by the people that they spend time with. And I guess when you're at school, you're looking up to a teacher and they have a tremendous impact on a kid's life and their trajectory and where they want to go, how they think about things. There are big consequences there for sure.
Absolutely. And it's just another testament to the fact that, you know, the classroom isn't isolated to merely the classroom, the four walls of the classroom, but it's like you've now a teacher on the beach when you like outside of the water with the kids, and on the ocean. So your classroom might look different, but you still remain a teacher.
Yeah, 100%. And sure, I've got so much respect for teachers standing up and speaking to a whole lot of kids who don't want to listen. I mean, that takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, well, thank you. And we've got as much respect for somebody that absolutely like goes out on waves. I watched a few videos of yours, and I've been following on Instagram. Some of the waves you've been surfing is like 7 meters tall. I can't even think or like scale that, because when I just went on holiday to Durban, and I think the biggest waves I saw there was like 1.5 meters, maybe a little bit bigger than that. So thinking of 6 meters, 7 meter waves, that's astonishing. So it takes a lot of guts to do that.
Well, I mean, I've actually surfed out in waves where the swells have been 7 stories high. So more like looking at 70 to 80 foot high surf. So yeah, we don't really get those waves so much in South Africa. We do get huge waves here, but I kind of follow the winter time. So for me, the best and scariest time is around December, when it's the northern hemisphere winter, and I chase the swells over to Hawaii, and you just get those big energies coming out of the deep and these huge waves rearing up, and yeah, it's quite something.
You'll have to correct me here. I am on the metric system. 70-foot waves. That's what?
So it's probably around 12 to 15 meters high.
That's shockingly massive. And you get on a surfboard and you ride these waves.
Yep.
Yep. Casually, that's what I do for a living. So, Matt, I want to delve into that a bit deeper later. Well, excuse the ocean pun, but I want to get into that a bit later. But of course, you assemble a team to work with. If you're going to ride these 15-meter waves, it's not like you're doing it on your own. There's a team that goes with you. and various components to these teams. What are you looking for when you decide that you're going to work with somebody or you're going to employ somebody to work with you?
So I think, so just to like, I used to do competitions when I was younger, and now I don't do competitions. So my job is to create content for my sponsors. So I chase these storms around the world and then I surf the waves they create. And one of the most important parts of that job is capturing the moment. So I work with the main people I work with, are photographers and videographers. And when I'm working with these guys, I think obviously a high level of professionalism and skill, but I think one of the biggest things for me is humility, because if somebody, like you got to be able to give and take when you're working with someone. Like I'm a professional surfer, so I kind of know the ocean very well. They know the cameras and the positioning that they need to get. But for me, there's nothing worse than working with someone who's kind of like a know-it-all, who's too proud to work together and figure out like how to get that best moment, you know? So when at the moment, I'm making a film, working with a guy in Australia, and he's super humble. And I feel like it's so amazing. We kind of empower each other to get that perfect shot that we're looking for. And I feel like, I feel like humility is a huge plus for me when working with somebody.
Well, just from a safety point of view, I can think when you guys are out on the ocean, if you've got somebody that's quite egotistical, full of themselves, like thinking that they are the big shot and bigger than the rest of the team, just from a safety point of view, I can think that it's already a challenge if you don't have somebody that's humble enough to realize, listen, we're in trouble now, or at least go through all of the precautions to make sure you're safe.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And when you're surfing big waves, the good thing is that it actually smashes whatever ego and pride you have. It brings you down because you feel so small when you see how big the waves are. But yeah, again, if a guy thinks he knows it all and he's sitting in the wrong position and then suddenly a massive wave is crashing over him, then I would potentially have to go in and try help him and rescue him, or somebody else might have to risk their life. So it could have tremendous consequences.
And what's interesting for me is we've done a few of these interviews now with prominent people in society, and every single time it seems like the hard skills are like the barrier. That's the minimum entry into any job. It's like, okay, you need to have the skills, but what people are looking for are these traits like humility, curiosity. These are the themes that are coming up, and it's very interesting to me. I wanted to know from you, when you were at school, was there a focus maybe from some of your teachers or from your parents on these skills around humility and curiosity? I think what I'm trying to get at is, how do you, who is a big wave surfer, professional big wave surfer, how do you maintain that humility? Was it instilled to you when you were at school at a younger level, or how did that come to be?
Yeah, I think in school I had some great teachers who I could see that the ones I didn't want to listen to teachers who were too proud. So that affected me. And then teachers that were humble and had a genuine interest in me, then I really was drawn to those kind of leaders. My parents have had a huge influence in help in the humility part. I think instilling that value from a very young age. That together, I think with my faith has played a big role, because I know that I'm so small in the bigger scheme of things. And again, when you go into the big waves, then I totally brought back down whatever little ego I have, or that puffs up a bit, then you brought down very quickly. And that's one of the reasons why I love surfing and going out into these stormy big oceans, because it just reminds you that there's so much power and greatness out there beyond us. And I find myself when I'm just stuck at home in my comfort zone, and then I start to become big in my own world. But then you're not really growing, you're not really learning when you think you're the bee's knees, you know? So that humility I found has been a great thing for me to learn new things, to grow, and especially keep learning, I think.
No, I would say, listening from you here, like the ocean is your greatest teacher. like that notion
Yeah.
of there's always a bigger fish, like, there's always a bigger wave, and with that comes a lot of danger and a lot of fear. And I think I know now that you also do keynote talks at schools and at corporates and so forth, bringing the lessons that you've learned from big wave surfing into the boardroom, bringing that into people's real lives. What would you say? Because you also call yourself a storm chaser, and it's one thing that you absolutely love. Like, these 15-meter waves don't just come about because like the wind maybe picked up a little bit. There's a storm over the ocean that's causing these waves. I want to hear a little bit more about this parallel you've drawn about your life as a professional big wave surfer, and how you bring that into the boardroom, or how you bring that into people's lives.
Yeah, thanks. It is quite an interesting parallel, but I think the main thing is that, so obviously I'm chasing storms. Most people see a storm as being chaotic and you just want to avoid it, stay away from it. But us big wave surfers, we're viewing the storm differently because we're seeing that there's actually a big wave in there to ride. So we go out in when everyone else is maybe getting around the fire and staying indoors and keeping warm, we're going out into the stormy ocean to go find that wave. And I think what it comes down to in life, we all have our big storms happening all around us. And I used to struggle with it a lot, and I still struggle with it, to being overwhelmed by the challenge ahead, or the change happening, or a tough time. Sometimes I think we get overwhelmed by it instead of looking into it. Okay, yeah, it is scary, it is uncomfortable, but in each of those situations, there's a beautiful thing either to be learned, or there's an opportunity for breakthrough or for growth. So where's that wave that you can ride in that challenge? And I think when we look at a big challenge and we see that as an opportunity instead of a threat, that's a really powerful thing. Our whole attitude changes from trying to avoid these big moments and these big challenges, shying away from these big moments. That changes to when we have this kind of, I'm sure you know about growth mindset. When you have that growth mindset, you welcome the challenge. You're like, okay, this is going to be very difficult, but this is an opportunity for me to grow. And you look into a tough time, or you look into a storm and for that wave, and you look for that opportunity, then that, for me, that's when the best moments have happened. For me, like, my best moments have been just on the other side of fear, and nothing that's really big and amazing that's happened to me has come easy. It's always been a big challenge. There's been a lot of discomfort, grappling with all the feelings of fear. So I want to encourage people to see the wave in the storm. What wave is there for them to ride when the storms come?
Yeah, and I thought it's quite profound, because there is a big distinction between people who see a storm and run away from it, and people who see a storm and then run towards it, like you do. And I wanted to delve into that thing, like, what makes that difference between those two type of individuals? And you've mentioned growth mindset, and it's a attitude or a value that somebody has that's just different, because the wave remains the same size. Nothing changes about the wave. It's the way in which you look at it, as you've just said, an opportunity versus a threat. So how can we as teachers, because I believe growth mindset is something that can be learned, but should be done as early as possible. What would you say if you had to give advice to teachers on instilling growth mindset in the learners? Because you've mentioned that teachers have got influence. So how would teachers assist kids in fostering that growth mindset?
I think one of the main things of growth mindset is not being scared to make mistakes. And I was very nervous when I was young growing up, especially related to the surfing competitions. I was a great surfer, but I would always surf very conservatively because I was scared to fail. I was scared to fall off my board. I was scared to lose against people who maybe weren't as good as surfers as me. So it ended up, I surfed very conservative because I was scared to fail. My everyone's expectations around me. Instead of going out there to do my best, and if I fail, then I fail forward, and then I grow and I work on the things that I need to, and then I have another crack at it. So I think maybe if teachers can instill an environment where they are encouraged to take risks, and to go for it. Yeah.
So there's a few things that came out of this. The one thing I thought of while you mentioned this is something I learned from Dr. Jordan Peterson. He mentioned it a while ago, that in competitions, there's actually a competition within a competition, or a game within a game. And if you view, for instance, let's take your surfing competition in isolation. If you view the individual competition as an entity on its own, and you do everything in your power to win, or to like get gold in that specific competition, you might feel the need to like go unethically or cheat or do something to win, because that's your goal was just to get the gold. But if you view it as a game within a bigger social game, in other words, people are going to judge me on my character. People are going to look at me or as an influencer, not in the social media kind, but if I were to, for instance, cheat or be unethical during that competition and win the gold, that's not going to win me a lot of friends. In the greater scheme of life, that's not going to really elevate me on the dominance hierarchy, as Dr. Jordan Peterson calls it. So I like the fact that you mentioned that if teachers can instill that thing of, it's okay to fail. We're not going to penalize you for failing. We're actually going to learn from our failures, because next time when you attempt it, you're going to be better at it. But then also, Matt, you didn't start surfing 15-meter waves, did you?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I'm still a very conservative person, and I get scared by things, all the time. But I think a key was that when I started, I took lots of little stepping stones to get there. And the key was stepping out in faith a little bit and pushing the fear back a little bit, and doing that constantly over and over again. So it definitely wasn't going straight into the big stuff. It was little bit by little bit, kind of going and surfing maybe some 3-foot waves. And I remember being scared of waves that were only chest high when I was young. And I kind of, I guess the attitude of enjoying the challenge of it. And sometimes I would have bad wipeouts, but then I would go back and do it again, and enjoying that challenge. And I think that's been a very, very important part in trying to enjoy the challenge ahead. So little bit by little bit. And again, it's kind of relating it to those storms, because a lot of those moments were very scary for me, and like, in a sense, they were storms. So facing a little storm and growing from it, and facing another storm and growing from it was very important for me. And then, sure, I still like I can't believe some of the waves that I get to surf, because as I said, I feel like I'm quite conservative, and suddenly I like open my eyes and I'm surfing these massive waves. Like, it's just gone like that, but it was little bit by little bit building it up, which was, it's really awesome.
Matt, how old were you when you started surfing, when you put your first foot onto the surfboard?
I was 6 when I started surfing, but then I only started really putting effort in constantly when I was 12. We moved to the beach when I was 12 in Komaki, here of Cape Town. And my dad was a big wave surfer. Well, not big waves, but like maybe waves, maybe 2 humans, kind of 10 to 12 foot high. And he would take me out into the slightly bigger stuff, and then help me to push that comfort zone a bit back. So it was a great help in exposing me to that. Yeah.
So early exposure and having a mentor that you looked up to definitely assisted in like invoking the interest, at least, and then from there on you could take it on yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's so awesome to have someone you can look up to as an example, who's kind of leading the way for you. And my dad has been a huge help and support for that. And again, like when I failed, he wasn't like angry with me. And I saw the pressure that parents put on their kids, like in the competitions. They were so scared to fail. If they came in and they had surfed badly, their kids, so often the parents would be shouting at the kids. And And I just felt so lucky that I didn't have that, because I did already have a bit of a fear of failure, and I was trying to do my best. And if I didn't do well, my dad wouldn't have all that pressure on me. And I felt like so many of my peers who were great surfers, who could have been really good, they crumbled under the pressure of their parents just putting that on them.
Yeah, like the analogies and the metaphors that come from surfing into parenting and teaching here, I'm just loving this. Like the pressure, the crushing pressure from the wave of the parents' expectation is bigger than the crushing force of the wave on the ocean. Like they could have been so great, but that the social pressure from the parents and maybe from their friends was an inhibiting factor to their success, when you were given the freedom of failing and then getting back on the board the next time.
I like the idea that my friend, who's actually a surfer on the world tour now, he's told me one of his greatest mind shifts was, because he failed a lot. He said he looks at it as failing forward. So when you have a failure, you're not moving backwards, you're actually failing forward, and you're moving onwards and up towards your goal, which I really love that analogy.
Yeah, exactly. Because failure is not fatal. It's not going to be the end. Like moving forward and towards what you're working is so important. And failure is just another step in the process. But you said you like really got into it when you were 12. That means for a big part of your schooling career, you were surfing. How was that interaction? Because I don't know really in Cape Town and Durban if it's that big, because in Joburg it definitely isn't. But
Yeah.
I think having kids in the school doing extramurals, that's like not part of the conventional, the traditional extramurals. How was that like? Did you have teachers that were supportive of it? Teachers who were like totally against it? How was that interaction?
So I started off at Bishop's, and they were very much all about like the rugby and the mainstream sports. But when I was there, I wasn't really doing like the professional surfing yet. But then when I moved to Redham House, I felt like the teachers there were a lot more free thinking, and they were one of the things that was huge for me was the principal at the time. I was doing quite well in water polo and swimming, and they wanted me to like train super hard with the team. And I went to the principal with my parents, and we said to them like, I want to do these school sports, but it's too much because I really love the surfing. And the headmaster said to me like, what is your passion? And I said, surfing is my passion. And he said, well, that's what you are going to do. So all the other sports kind of laid a foundation to be comfortable in the water and get good and strong in the water. But they were really like almost all the teachers there were incredible in supporting my passion of surfing.
Now, did any of your teachers think that it is a legitimate career? Because when I think of the experience I had, I knew that when there were kids who were like into golf, into equestrian, those type of almost want to say alternative sports. Like, did they believe that this could be a possible career for you, or was it just something that they thought you just like wasting your time on?
I think that I'm not too sure, but they probably didn't think it would become a career. But I think why they supported me was because I was a hard worker. So I worked hard at school when I was there, but then also when I surfed, I did it to the best of my ability, and I worked really hard at that as well. So I think that was something that really helped them to carry on supporting me, was whatever I was going to do, I was going to work really hard at it.
And when did that shift come about from, well, this is now a hobby, something that I'm enjoying, to this is now going to be my career? When did that shift happen?
I think I got sponsored when I was 12 already. So it was quite early days, and I was still, it was the competitions. I think it really started to become serious for me when I found the love for big wave surfing. And that kind of I enjoyed challenging myself in the bigger waves, but it really came to fruition when I had my first session out of Dungeons, this wave that breaks off Hout Bay, and it's this terrifying wave that breaks out in the middle of the ocean. And I'd grown up like feeling very comfortable in most of the waves I was surfing. And I thought I could go out to dungeons without preparing for it because I was a good surfer. And I went out there and I got caught by this set of waves. So 5, like, what, let me just think in my head how big in meters, maybe 7, 8 meter waves crashing over me. And I just remember feeling so scared. Like I felt like I had no energy left in my muscles. I had no oxygen in my lungs. I was sapped from the adrenaline, and fear just took over my whole body. It was the most terrifying experience I'd ever had. And then I actually was paddling to get out the water after that because I was shaking and I was like, I don't want to do this big wave stuff. And then on the way to get out the water, because I'd changed my position, another really big set of waves came and crashed over the crowd, and I happened to be in the perfect spot, and I caught this wave, which was the biggest wave I'd ever caught at that time. And then after that rush and that incredible feeling I had, I started to set my sights on big wave surfing. So it was this terrifying activity that had, and I thought I was going to drown almost, that kind of sparked the new direction for me, because I got that one great wave. And from there, I started to really chase big waves around the world, chase storms. And yeah, that was already 12 years ago. So
yeah, that's such a cool story. I'm just thinking, like, you were ready to quit. You were like, okay, this is too much for me. The anxiety is a lot. Like, I'm gonna drown. And on your way out, you were at the right place at the right time, caught the right wave. So I think there's this whole stigma around people who are quitting or people who are giving up. And I think this is just one way of showing you, like, maybe on your way out, you get a second wind, or you get a second breath and a second chance. And I think that's the growth mindset thing we need to foster, and that even in failure, there's the opportunity to find success.
Yeah, 100%. And I just want to encourage people, because some people might think I'm a little bit mad at missing something in my head for surfing big waves, but I still get really scared, and everyone gets really scared when the waves get big. There's not one person who doesn't experience fear. So it's not like we're missing something, but I think it's just the approach that we have to fear, to face it head on and to move through it. And one of the things I talk about in my keynote is feeling vulnerable. Like, we have to allow ourselves to feel vulnerable, to stretch ourselves. And then even when we're feeling that, we still have to paddle out. And because that's when the good stuff happens, when we're stretching ourselves, and we still paddle out and we go catch that wave, then the good stuff happens. But when I was younger, there were times definitely when I felt fear and vulnerability, and I thought those were bad things, and I moved away from them. And if I had continued living like that, it would have been a disaster.
Exactly. I mean, you could have ended up like doing something that you absolutely hated. And it happens in so many people's lives that they said no for an opportunity that could have led them on a whole different path, but they said no based on the fear, and they didn't attack that with the mindset, like, maybe here's an opportunity, let me go and see whether I can discover something here. And that's why I always come back to this thing about curiosity. It's like, how will I feel in a situation like this? Let me see, like, baby steps. Of course, you're not going to jump into a 15-meter wave from the get-go. Coming back to that, Matt, what I wanted to ask you, obviously now, because you're chasing the storm, you are quite interested in weather patterns. I've seen some of the videos that you've of some of the content, and there's a lot of times that you're checking weather charts. Now, this relates directly back to the social sciences and geography subject at school, and also because you're like the physical sciences, because I know there's a lot of discourse around energy within these systems. How were you in like geography at school and physical sciences as a subject at school?
Yeah, I love geography. Sure. I absolutely loved it. And I also had a great teacher. And I think that was my top scoring subject, because I knew all the weather patterns around South Africa to start with. Like, if that was the subject, then I was getting like really good marks. The currents moving around, how waves are formed. And yeah, so that was really awesome for me. And now I'm having a baby in 2 months, so all the biology stuff, like, that's so fascinating. Hey, I think it's the most just incredible thing. And I think I'm cool surfing big waves, but sure, my wife she's way more gnarly than me. Going to give stuff, so it's
Oh,
really,
that's
really
awesome, man. Well done. Congratulations. We're looking forward to the birth of your child. Now, I
thanks.
absolutely love that. Now, I'm a life sciences teacher. Biology is my background, and one thing I keep on telling kids in the class is like, show me one instance in your life where you're not going to use the content from biology, and then they try and like bowl me out. Like in this career, I'm never going to use it. In that career, I'm never going to use it. And then I just always go back like, one day you might be a dad. One day you
Yeah.
might be a mom, and you'll need your biology content.
100%. Yeah, no, it's the body is just the most fast. I just bought a book. I don't know if you know it, called The Body, but I can't remember who's by, but it goes through every part, every system you have. And I just think it's so fascinating and incredible. So you must have such a wealth of knowledge. That's amazing.
Yeah, and there's a lot more to learn, and that's why it's amazing that we've got access to the internet and that we can get the content. There's no excuse for ignorance anymore. It's just finding out the reliable information. That's the
Yeah, sure.
absolute challenge. But Matt, part of this journey of yours is around physical fitness. You can't be like dealing with energy at this scale and not being physically fit. So how do you ensure that you remain physically fit?
So I had like a natural fitness in the water from my swimming and my water polo days. And I feel like now, I mean, I train every day. So it is very, very important, but it's more important, I think, for my mind, so that my mind is at ease. My mind is ready. I'm feeling confident when the waves are really big. My favorite thing to do, so I try to mimic the big wave environment, because these big swells that we're surfing are only coming around a few times a year with these big storms. So I try to mimic the big wave environment, and the way that I best do that, I think, is through swimming. So it's quite interesting what I can hold my breath for over 4 minutes while just chilling. But when you're in the danger zone out there in the ocean, you feel so alone, and you have these huge waves crashing over you and holding you down. And the feeling of being out of control, where you feel the weight of the wave above you, and you can't come up until the wave releases you. If you panic in that situation, that's when you can drown. So my favorite thing to do is get in the swimming pool. I do sprints in the pool to get my heart rate up to mimic the adrenaline, and then I do lengths under the water, straight with the adrenaline pumping. And while I'm swimming under the water, I try to visualize myself being pushed deep under the water by the wave. I sense the darkness around me. I feel the pressure on my ears. The burning sensation in my lungs to breathe. And I do this over and over and over again to get used to all these uncomfortable feelings, so that when I experience it in the real situation, that I don't panic, and I'm like, okay, I've been here before, I've done this, I can remain calm. And I can get through it. So swimming is a big one for me. And then I do a lot of body weight training in the gym for like core, a lot of stuff that involves like the Pilates ball for stability. But at the end of the day, I think all of it is for my mindset, so that when I'm paddling into a big wave, that I've got the confidence to go. Or if I find myself staring up at a huge wave crashing on me, I can remain calm and I can make good decisions because I feel like I'm prepared.
Like that was such a great answer, because I'm a big proponent that teachers need to be physically fit. There's so much chaos that's happening in a classroom, and that's just on a typical day. Like things are unstable. The waves are quite big-ish in a classroom. Yeah. But when it really gets crazy, being physically fit as a teacher it just elevates your mind to another level, and it helps you deal with stress and anxiety. I've read stats the other day that teaching is seen as a stressful career. So stressful, in fact, it's on the same level as pilots, as air traffic controllers, and firefighters.
Wow.
I'm not going to put big wave surfers in there. I think it might be a little bit more stressful at times.
But, I don't think so.
But the fact is, the thing about firefighters and airplane pilots is they're also physically fit. Now, you've just given us another reason why I believe all people, because all of us face storms, and while you're going through tough times, being physically fit mean, the neurochemistry around it alone, the dopamine release that helps you, like it's a pick me up alone. So I love bringing that back into the classroom and advocating for teachers to remain fit.
Yeah, I think also when you feel good about your body, as you say, you exude like this confidence and that will come out in every part of your life. For me, maybe it's paddling into these big waves of confidence, and I'm sure if you're teaching, that confidence comes through, you know, and that's if you're very unsure about yourself and you're not in good physical condition, then maybe you're doubting yourself a bit more, and the stress. And I'll definitely encourage, if teaching is that stressful, for them to start surfing, because surfing is the biggest stress reliever. It's the best. You go out there in the ocean and you're just surrounded by nature and beautiful waves, and it's just such a good way to get your mind off what's going on around you, because you're transported into like another world when you're in the ocean.
And just on that, even if it's not surfing, it's like just getting into the environment, just finding something that you enjoy, that's calming, and like leaning into it. A lot of teachers fall into the trap of teaching is their lives. It's like full day, all day. That thing about teaching is just a half day job. I mean, that's a fallacy. That's absolutely nonsense. That teachers get home after school, they basically cook for their families if they do, and then they keep on working. And I've seen it firsthand. Our teachers absolutely burn out. And if you don't have this balance in like your passion, your hobbies, if you don't give time to that, it detracts from your professionality. It detracts from your confidence as a teacher. And what I wanted to say, Matt, is that confidence you've mentioned is so important as a teacher, because kids, it gives you that extra layer of authority. And kids really want to learn from people who are confident.
Yeah, and my wife is a counselor at a school, so she comes home and she's been dealing with kids all day. I mean, it is her passion, but she is often so drained and exhausted. But I still try and encourage her like that even though she's mentally exhausted, to try to do exercise or go for a walk or something, because it looks like it's a very stressful and taxing job being in the school environment, for sure.
If a big wave surfer says that, I'm going to put a stamp on it. We're going to sell t-shirts with that. But Matt, tell me a little bit more about the community around big wave surfing. I've seen in some of the videos that there are other big wave surfers, but are there really, like, how many are there? Are you guys like communicating with each other on a regular basis? Like, how's that?
Yeah, it's quite a strange community, because we only really see each other when the waves are going to be massive, because people fly in from all over the world and they meet at a point. And often, so we can predict the wave, we can see the waves coming from even up to like 2 weeks in advance. There's models that are predicting there's going to be a big system. And when I see that for the right places, I'll be phoning my friend in Europe or in Hawaii and asking them what they think of it, and are they going for the swell. It's a really, really awesome community, and it's so exciting when you've flown across the world and you have the jet lag and you feel so uncomfortable and you're scared for these big waves, and then you see all these familiar faces that are going to come surf these big waves with you. And the big wave community it's really awesome when you're out there, and it's massive. Everybody is looking out for each other. So if somebody has a very hectic wipeout, you're watching to see that person comes up fine. We've got all these signals like this is okay, or I'm in danger, like all these signals to tell that that person needs help, and everyone's out there looking out for one another. There is this kind of brotherhood, which is really, really awesome in big wave surfing.
Yeah, and I think that's so important to have, that, you know, when you're on the wave and you're on the board, it's just you and the wave. But if it would have been so much more difficult if it was just you in isolation the whole time.
100%, yeah. 100%.
Having that community to share your challenges and your successes with, and looking out for each other, is extremely important. And I believe that's why when teachers get together, they speak about nothing else than teaching. Like if we see teachers in the staff room, or you meet them at a braai, what they speak about is teaching and these kids and the things that they've gone through. So I bet you it's similar when you guys get together. the big wave surfers, or is the chatter more around like the daily things, or are you guys like absolutely obsessed?
No, yeah, when we're getting, often we pretty obsessed with the big swell that's coming, or the best is, and I'm sure it's like maybe when teachers get together at the end of a term and the holidays are ahead and you get together for like a social event and you just like, oh, you can take a breather, after a big swell, when you get back to land and you go out and you have like a beer with all the people that have just shared such a dramatic experience with you. It's just, oh, it's the best feeling ever. Because you've all been through that together.
Now, I would be totally remiss if I don't ask this question. Did you have any shark encounters while big wave surfing or other surfing? And like, how close did you come?
Yeah, so obviously living in Cape Town, we've got great whites all around, and Dungeons is actually breaking off of Seal Island. So there's definitely big sharks out there, but I've never seen one out there. But in my surf career, I've seen about 5 great whites while surfing. But if you think about it over how many times I've surfed, it's hardly any. So the chances of seeing one are very, very small. I was out in the water when I was very young, and one of my buddies actually got breached out the water by a great white. But he was totally unscathed by the whole incident, but his board was smashed in 3 pieces. But yeah, when I'm surfing, there are some spots that are considered a lot more sharky than others where maybe I think about it a bit more, but most of the time I don't really think about it too much. So it doesn't bother me. Yeah.
We've got this negative bias against it because we've seen 1 or 2 incidents, we hear about this, and now everybody assumes that every time we're going to the water, there's a chance of you being like pulled to shreds by a great white, when the statistics don't really support that.
No. I mean, for so many people, a shark is their greatest fear, and they go in the ocean and you can see them. A lot of people, when they're learning to surf, they want to be able to stand where they're surfing. Like, they won't let themselves go further out because they're scared of that great unknown. When you look down and you can't see the bottom, it's the unknown, and it is scary. I'm obviously used to it by now, but there's so many people who never really get over that fear of the unknown. It's more the feeling of like, what is there? You don't know what's there. That people have that problem with. Yeah.
And that's why this keynote talk of yours is so important, that everybody has to listen to it, is because we do not understand the storm. We're very uncertain about the times that are going to come when the storm has passed. Like, that's the fearful thing. And I think that's when we come back to what we started this conversation on, and what makes that difference between people running away from the storm and those who face the storm are the ones who are curious enough to find out, listen, what's on the other side of uncertainty.
Yeah. I think that being curious is such an amazing way to look at life and look at challenges and opportunities. Just a quick one. In December last year, I chased a swell over to Hawaii in the middle of COVID, and I just found out that my wife was pregnant, and the day the swell was hitting was the day of the first that we're getting the scan, and I had all these things, and to get there, I had to do a second test in California, and it was going to take 2.5 days, and I would only arrive the night of the swell, and then there were these 50, 60-foot waves coming. So the whole thing was so scary. And I remember my wife telling me, just see the whole thing as an adventure. So like, don't be, oh, something goes wrong, it's a disaster. And because that's how I normally am when things go wrong, I like get so rattled, but just take it as an adventure. Like, you're going through this, you're learning from each part of the journey, and see it as an adventure. And I think that ties in with that curiosity, which is really, really awesome, because a simple mind shift goes from you enjoying the whole journey to absolutely hating it, and it's a simple switch in your mind to enjoy those challenges and see it as an adventure.
That's awesome, Matt. If schools want to get hold of you, because I believe your keynote talk has to be presented to all learners and all teachers, because it has such an impact early on in people's lives. How do people get hold of you if they want to book you to speak at their school?
So I think the best way, again, would be through my Instagram. So it's Matt Bromley Surf. Otherwise, people can email me. It's info@mattbromleysurf, the same as my Instagram handle.com. info@mattbromleysurf.com. And yeah, I love working with younger people. As you say, like if you can influence someone's life early, I think that's such an honor to be able to do that. So really looking forward to doing a lot more talks in schools. And yeah.
Excellent. Matt, thank you very much for the time here. And I think all the best for the biggest adventure that lies ahead, and that's the adventure of parenthood.
Thank you so much. It was so awesome to chat, Francois.
We'll chat soon enough. Thank you, Matt. Stay super.
Cheers,
Well, that's it for today's show. I hope that you found value and that your classroom or your boardroom is now a better place to work at. Please go check out the website staysuper.co.za to find out how my keynotes, workshops, or mastermind can assist you in teaching like a superhero. Until I see you in person or chat with you online, stay super.